Welcome back. You're watching the François Picard debate. We're talking about the situation in Egypt. A day of violent bloodshed there today after security forces moved in to clear out camps where Muslim Brotherhood supporters of the former President Mohamed Morsi had been camped out for a long time now. We have a lot of people who want to talk tonight, so I'm going to first of all hand you over to James Creedon, who's been looking at some of the international reaction. And as always, James, social media playing a vital role in what's going on in Egypt today.
That's right, certainly in terms of getting images of what's been going on in Cairo and elsewhere out, Laura. Lots of extremely violent pictures that we can't show, but some that give a sense of what's been going on. The first one I'm showing you is an AFP photograph by Mohamed Abdel Mounim, and it shows somebody who's injured and with an army vehicle in the background of that photograph, I suppose, reflecting maybe the differing strengths or differing, I suppose, weaponry. This is a photograph of, but taken by Sharif Kudus, an independent journalist based in Cairo. This is also in Rada, showing identity cards of those who have been killed. The next photo is taken by Musab Al-Shami, who is sometimes AFP contributor and photographer, also based in Cairo. A very poignant image of somebody amongst the bodies in Rabat. Now, that's a photo of the photographer himself, who has put other photographs up on Flickr, such as this one of, I believe, a Muslim Brotherhood supporter throwing a stone. Now, he says that the only reason he was able to get these photographs out of Rabat, because indeed he was stopped by a vigilante of some kind, was that he kept the SD card in his sock, which is in itself shows the difficulty that some journalists have had in terms of getting pictures out. And on that point, there is a battle going on online in terms of the narrative of what happened. These are pictures put online by the Egyptian army, and they claim to show Muslim Brotherhood members with guns. Now, what is the veracity of those images? We cannot say. All we can say for sure is that there is a battle in terms of creating those narratives that is being played out online, and supporters seem to be, on one side or the other of that. Even if that is simplifying somewhat, here is one tweet by somebody called Secular, saying Muslim Brotherhood are setting cars on fire, etc., and hashtag Muslim Brotherhood are terrorists. So clearly, two different sides.
An information war going on online, as there so often is in situations like this. Thank you very much indeed. And Hannah Youssef, I wanted to come back to you. You would like to respond to Ahmed Mustafa in London, the representative of the Muslim Brotherhood tonight. What would you like to say to him?
Yes, I feel that what I was said was understood or presented as I'm saying that there hasn't been a bloodshed or what's happening is not true. And no, I absolutely believe that there's bloodshed, because we're talking about the Egyptian state security and the Egyptian military. We all know the excessive violence they use, excessively violent methods when dealing with the population.
Did you support the ousting of Mohamed Morsi on July 3rd?
Yes, I did.
And do you believe that the security forces had to move these protesters out of Cairo?
I just want to say something first before I say that, is that we all know the violence of the state. This is the Muslim Brotherhood person says anybody in a democratic state. And that's ludicrous. We're not in a democratic state. So we all know this. The leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood know this. When there were protests in the Tahrir, at night, the activists and the people would go and tell people with children, go home, because we all know that the protests are attacked at night and at dawn. But yet they asked people to come, and they asked the children to stay. So what I'm saying is that we all knew that this would be bloodshed. We all tried to stop it. We all tried to say, negotiate, find another solution, and they refused, while at the same time blatantly inciting for secular violence. So when he says that there are Copts there, there are Christians there, I find that very difficult to believe, when they are calling the Christians traitors to the country, and when they go around for weeks and weeks with inciting to sectarian violence. So we abhor violence, and we have said we don't want the military or the security to go and kill people, because we don't want blood.
Let me put it another way then. Do you still support this interim government led by Adli Mansour, with General al-Sisi clearly having a strong hand in that?
I don't think it's...
Or do you like Mohamed al-Baradei, who today withdrew his support? Have you withdrawn your support?
I don't think it's as simple as saying I support or I don't support. There is a threat to the lives of people when we say that they're peaceful sit-ins. I have personal friends who have worked in field hospitals, seeing people living around the sit-ins who have been stabbed to death for having a poster of tamarrud in their shop. This I don't need the media. I have friends who are working on this. So it's not as simple as, do I support or do I not support? I support the revolution. I support the rule of law. And here is one part that is refusing to comply with the rule of law. And we are begging them to do it, and they refuse. So I to be honest, I don't know.
Okay. Paul Gardner.
Yeah, I'll make two comments here. One, just on the U.S. role in this. The U.S., I think, is very concerned about the security state apparatus, which the Americans have supported over the years in supporting the Mubarak government, and the repressive apparatus that was very apparent there in Egypt. And yet that apparatus has not been reformed, or in the Morsi government has not taken care of it. In fact, at the time of the revolution, there was accusations the Muslim Brotherhood were linked with the military. Now that military has turned against the Muslim Brotherhood. General Sisi at the time was accused of being, when he became general, he was accused of linking with the Muslim Brotherhood, and now he's being accused of being supported by Saudi Arabia. So we have a lot of contradictions, but the point is the military's still behind it, and the U.S. is caught in a delicate position because it knows just what you're talking about, and yet it wants a peaceful transition. So on the one hand, it's going to continue to support and give Egypt the $1.5 billion a year. On the other hand, its big threat is to not deliver F-16s. But at the same time, it's pushing for a democratic transition and trying to get both sides to compromise. And there, it's working with the European Union, Qatar, and the UAE, United Arab Emirates, in trying to negotiate behind the scenes. And I think a state like Qatar can play a role in convincing the Muslim Brotherhood that they have to make the kind of concessions that you've alluded to. Now, they want a change in the prime minister and other changes in the government. But behind the scenes, they are trying to move this forward. U.S., as I said, European Union, Qatar, and UAE, trying to move it forward to try to minimize the amount of violence that's obviously could really undermine the stability of Egypt and the economy.
That's certainly the question, isn't it? Where do we go from now? Perhaps, Nir van Lahmoud, you'd like to come back on this point. I mean, given what's happened, I mean, we've had the Muslim Brotherhood say there have been 3 massacres now since Mohammed Morsi was ousted. That's their word, not mine. That's how they're describing it. There have been a lot of people killed, almost as many, I believe, since the protests to oust Mubarak in the first place. Can these two factions now sit down together and have dialogue and have a peaceful transition and go to democracy from here?
They have to. There is no third way. Let's just remember the revolution had 3 goals: freedom, justice, and bread. And we have to go back to fulfill those 3 goals. Those in power in Egypt, or the politician in Egypt in general, from both sides, are not necessarily genuine in achieving the goals of the revolution. So simply, those are in power are powerful but not genuine, and those who outside are genuine but not necessarily powerful. The Muslim Brotherhood have to stop playing an epic Islamic battle. This is not an Islamic battle. This is a political battle. And the other political parties have to unite and pressurize the government to work on the roadmap to achieve democracy. It's not about the government resigning or not. They break it, they own it. It is about time for them to restore security and open serious negotiation, and Muslim Brotherhood figures have to accept it without precondition, and also have to stop playing martyrs, because we cannot afford that anymore. Yes, there is a lot of bloodshed, and mostly from the Muslim Brotherhood side, unfortunately, and we have to stop more. We have to triage and go back to basics.
Okay, Adel Rian, would you like to react to that?
Yeah, so I think it's more than indeed, the 3 goals of the revolution were freedom, justice, and bread. So you have different aspects of the spectrum that people are willing to fight for legitimately. But the real problem is the legitimacy of the power. So there have been, before the demise of the former president Morsi, the question of the legitimacy of the means that put him into power at first place. But then after that, after his ruling, there've been also a debate on the legitimacy with which he changed the constitution according to a certain strategy. And today, again, there is another problem about the legitimacy of the government in place.
Can I just put it to you, would those changes to the constitution that he was trying to push through, would that have prevented Egyptians from ousting him in an election, come election time? Would that have made it absolutely impossible for him to do that? Or were people more worried about what was happening in general?
Well, one of the points to consider primarily is okay, now he changed the constitution in a certain way, and the problem is that you have clearly two extreme factions that are into place, and that they constitute the real powers in the field. So one is saying, yes, this is a massacre. It's the first time that we've seen such a massacre, which is not true, because we've seen this kind of troubles around the world, especially today in a very mediatized world where anyone can just pick up a phone and post videos and etc. So the war here is also in a communication. But the real trouble is that it's always the same people who will pay the price, which are civilians, which are unarmed people, and a general political system in a country. So as soon as you say, yes, we are a country, the Egyptian people are speaking, but how would they speak? They would speak through negotiations between the parties involved, and they will try to find a way to get out of this. Now, if you have, for example, I would like to come back just about the position of the official position of the United States. There is a kind of embarrassment since the beginning. After the demise of Morsi, the spokesman of the state said, well, we cannot say that it is a coup, because as soon as you say that it's a coup, then the U.S. Senate, will cut the aid to, well, one of the questions of a journalist said, well, okay, but how do you do? He said, well, there is no law that will force us to make a statement on about if it's a coup or not. Well, clearly there is a problem of legitimacy, and every party here into place is claiming that is more legitimate than the other. But the real trouble is you do not seek legitimacy just by a partisanship, but you seek a general legitimacy. Democracy means the rule of the biggest number, yes, but not the oppression of the smaller number. So if you have to speak about the sitters, okay, you want to protest, you are putting some ideas forward, but then you cannot say that there is no law, there is no state. You can challenge the legitimacy of this state, of this power that's in place, but you cannot say I do not accept the removal of the sitters by the legal representatives of the force of the law.
All right, let me put that to Ahmed Mustafa from the Muslim Brotherhood. Where do you go from now? Is it possible for the Muslim Brotherhood to enter into the political process now? A lot of people are very worried that your candidate won the election. He was then removed from power, and some people say that the point of the Muslim Brotherhood now is that they won't be involved in the political process. They'll have to resort to other means. Is that true, or can you move forward from this, and can you talk to your fellow Egyptians and come up with some kind of compromise?
Laura, let me get something clear to you and to your guests and to your audience as well. This is a military coup. So we have military personnel in charge of the country. You have a president appointed by a military leader. You have a vice president appointed by the military. You have a prime minister appointed by the military. You have a whole ministerial office appointed by the military. And now they imprison the Muslim Brotherhood leaders in prisons, some of them being prosecuted, some of them being false imprisonment, some of them being chased from Rabat, and the Freedom and Justice Party, the political wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, that most of the leaders are in prison. Now, when they put all these guys in prison, which are our leaders, our figures, and they come and ask us, come and sit down at the table and discuss with us, how, in what reason could that be understood? I mean, I don't understand this. Okay, you imprison all the people that are in charge of us, people in charge of the Freedom Justice Party, people in charge of the Muslim Brotherhood, and you have a military occupation by your own military, by your own army, and they come, oh, by the way, can you come back and join in the political wing? How do you expect me to do this? Okay, and then some of your guests don't realize this is a military coup. We've been saying this for like 7 weeks. This is a military coup. You have a military people in charge of the whole country, and they come and blame us for trying to negotiate. How do you negotiate with someone with a handful of blood? And the same thing goes for the American administration and for the London Downing Street. Their hands are full of the blood because they've turned a blind eye for the last 7 weeks of what has been happening in Egypt because of the military coup. As one of your guests just said, they don't have to declare it's a coup because there's no law that declares it. But we know it's a coup.
The short answer, Ahmed Mustafa, is no. And the international community, I should point out, has condemned the violence. Largely, the EU, the United States, the UK, where you are now, have all condemned the violence today. Hall Gardner, you wanted to come in there.
Americans, as we already said, don't want to use the word coup because that would cut off aid to Egypt by U.S. law because we have a very ideological Congress. But in fact, it's a kind of pronunciamento. This is a form of coup which was supported by some 22 million signatures that were opposed to the Morsi government. In other words, the military was acting to a popular demand. It's a different kind of coup than a military coup that doesn't have some sort of popular support. So that's the first point. The second point, when I was on this very program at the time of Tahrir Square, the big debate was, should the new government take the Turkish model as legitimacy? The Turkish model allows the military to intervene whenever the Islamists seem like they're going too far. And this is the legitimacy that the basis of legitimacy that the present government, the military, has taken. They saw the Morsi government as moving too far in the Islamist direction. So the problem is, though, now, from the U.S. perspective, is to bring it back to normalcy, not to eliminate the Muslim Brotherhood altogether, because that would be a disaster. Muslim Brotherhood are a legitimate part of Egyptian society.
They won't talk to the people who have done this.
Well, in that case, both sides are going to be responsible for dragging Egypt to hell because the economy is gone to hell.
It's going to be a radicalization.
And radicalization, you're going to have more Salafists, you're going to have, you've already seen that in the Sinai. So it's up to the Muslim Brotherhood as responsible political leaders to begin a negotiation with the government, and that means the government has to change too. And that's why I said before, the United States, European Union, Qatar, and UAE are trying to arrange behind the scenes some sort of negotiation behind it. But of course, they're international actors. They're not the domestic side.
Just one moment. I'll come to you in a moment, Adel. Let Ahmed Mustafa respond to that, if you would.
I'm just replying back to your guest there. Like I said, the people who you're asking to us to negotiate with the government, which are our leaders, the FJP party, the Freedom and Justice Party, and the Muslim Brotherhood, now they're in prison. They're being accused of burning flats and houses and stealing money. And this is ridiculous, okay? And then you come and expect us to come down and sit down and talk with them. This is absolutely nonsense. You can't expect us to do this. This is a full military coup. Well, now they had to show us their full military might against some civilians who are sitting down and sitting in the middle of the street, and they're using bulldozers and using weapons, tear gases. They're burning people up. They've killed children. They've killed women. And they can express, oh, by the way, can you just come and talk with us about political enjoyment in the political stream? This is absolutely nonsense. This does not make sense. Okay, would you expect us? Now, people have died. Over thousands and thousands of people have been injured and killed.
What's the alternative, Ahmed? What is the alternative to sitting down and talking?
Bring our elected president back, then he will make the decision on how to move forward. It is exactly the same roadmap that the General Sisi has declared. It was exactly the same roadmap that President Morsi has said, except General Sisi don't want Morsi in the driving seat. He wanted to be in the driving seat. And in the next few weeks, you will find out, I'll say, that the General Sisi wants to become the next president of Egypt. Now, this is the rebirth of the Mubarak era. And the Muslim Brotherhood and the Freedom and Justice Party leaders will stay in prison just to make sure that the Muslim Brotherhood will are kept under the thumb. And America is also complicit in this by paying $1.5 billion American aid to the Egyptian military.
All right, okay, you made your point.
Yes, there are many legitimate reasons to be cautious about the words that we're using. Let's go back just a little bit. We have theories that they were saying, okay, now is after September 11th. There is now a real conflict of civilization. There is a clash of civilizations. And so one of the things that we can point to is the regimes in the most of the Arabic world, Muslim world too, were having an illegitimate basis of being and of existing. So this is something that can make consensus even among the most among critics. Yes.
To overthrowing the dictator.
Yes, we want to throw the dictators, but basically what said the West? Okay, well, post September 11th, and now what we want, we would like to intervene and we would like to support the good guys, because after all, these guys that have been in power illegitimately during so many years, decades actually, they will help us fight terror, that we define what is terror and what's not. Here I just would put a nuance with the colleague, is that, okay, but who is judging? Who is saying what's legitimate and what's not? I think that the concept of the West and the East does not make a lot of sense today, because you do see that different cultures that had as a different religion can produce just about the same effect. We do not maybe need to say this is a democracy. Maybe it should have another word, because the people that are in play are defining new things, new processes to come to terms with their differences, and they're building something. The problem is that the same people that are condemning today the violence, the US, the EU, Qatar, etc., well, these people were supporting other regimes that would not be as legitimate as they would like them to be.
Hannah, if you'd like to come in there. I'm wondering if perhaps it would be better if Egyptians sorted out their own problems rather than having Qatar, the United States, and all these other countries having
I think the people who are screaming out for the international community to come in are the Muslim Brotherhood. They are the ones, when an American frigate came, warship came closer to Egypt, were crying out, Allahu Akbar, God is great, the Americans are coming. So I think most people in Egypt do not want foreign intervention. We don't want the $1.5 billion of aid, because we want to be sovereign and we want to be independent, because this aid comes with restraints. But that's one part.
Just with Qatar, the
just
same like
with Qatar that has
Qatar.
been.
The Kuwaitis and the Emirates have all provided a substantial amount of aid, and it's not going to get you through. It's not enough money.
Exactly. And there are a lot of grassroots organizations and political organizations who have good plans to how to be independent economically. We have everything. We have everything worked out. It's just that the people in power at the time of Morsi and in the time of the SCAF, the military, and Morsi, and we'll wait and see what's happening now, have not been wanting to take this. That's why I don't say for or against Morsi, I'm for your revolution. But I would like to comment something Mr. Ahmed Mustafa said, is that it seems they're giving an impression that if Morsi would come back, everything will be okay. It's important to know that it's the people who ousted Morsi. What happened afterwards with the military taking power, this is what we can discuss as a coup or not. But on the 30th of June and on the 3rd of July, when Morsi was ousted, it was the people who ousted Morsi. And then, again, as I said, we can discuss if it's a coup or not. So Morsi is refused by the people. He is refused completely. So if he comes back, the people will not accept him. So if we're talking about legitimacy,
it's a no-go, basically.
It's a no-go, and even one of the media people, Muslim Brotherhood media people, works for Al Jazeera, Ahmed Mansour, was giving advice to which media strategy. He was saying, stop talking about Morsi coming back. It ain't gonna happen. Now adopt the revolution's goal, because that's how people will listen to you. They want social justice. So even they understand, but the leadership, they insist on this, just a second, they insist to this, and this blood is in their interest because they want a safe exit, and nobody will give them that safe exit.
That's one of the points. Sorry.
Can we're just running out of time. I just want to bring in Navana Mahmoud just before we go. Once again, 2 points of view, very, very different. Both Egyptians and nowhere near coming to any kind of compromise. Compromise is the thing that is really missing in Egypt today, and it looks like now it's only going to get worse.
Exactly. And unfortunately, both sides cannot see that they have to come forward with some viable solution. Unfortunately, everybody talk, but no viable solution. I agree with your guest who suggested that Morsi coming back will not solve anything. I'm actually amazed that Ahmed Mustafa is suggesting that Morsi bringing back will solve out something. He, like a lot of people in Rabaa, I heard, they reduce June the 30th to be the coup and the Copts. Unfortunately, they fail to understand that there is plenty of Muslims against them, are not happy with the rule and want them out. On the other hand, all the other countries who are trying to meddle in Egypt should stay out of it. And you mentioned the United States, you mentioned Qatar, United Arab Emirates, but Saudi Arabia, if I may, claim that, but also Turkey is another country who are trying to have a rule in Egypt. Unfortunately, none of them trying to mediate. And if there is a rule for outside player, is to mediate between the two sides, to make them understand that there is no way other than compromise. I agree with Ahmed that a lot of the Muslim Brotherhood should be released from prison. But it can be a blessing in disguise because those old guards are not offering something new for the Muslim Brotherhood. The youth of the Muslim Brotherhood have to come out and have to stop being, putting religious context into the story. They have to know how to play politics. They have shown in the last 7 weeks that they are good in protesting, organizing, recruiting, but they are not good in negotiation.
Naval Mahmoud, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you. We have run out of time on this grave day for Egypt, whatever side of the political divide you are on. That brings us to the end of this debate. Thank you to all my guests. Thank you to you for watching. We'll be back with another debate at the same time tomorrow. Do stay tuned. We've got much more coverage of what's going on in Egypt coming up for you next. Stay with us.
The 'Ndrangheta is thought to be the world's most powerful criminal organization. Based in Calabria, in southern Italy, the 'Ndrangheta has taken control of international cocaine trafficking.
It's from this village that the Godfathers give their orders for tons and tons of cocaine from South America.
Its activities range from extortion to bogus government construction deals and property scams. How did Italy's poorest region spawn this multinational crime syndicate? Reporters, Thursday, 6:45 p.m. Paris time on France 24.